Have you ever put on a new shirt after like 2 washes only to find out it's got a giant hole in it? Are you guilty of throwing it into a pile to be fixed and never getting around to fix it? Do you procrastinate? Guilty. In a day and age where it is apparently a common practice to throw away an article of clothing and just buy a brand new one instead of just fixing it, the way we value our clothing has changed, and I'd say not for the better. 200 years ago, they did it way better than we do now. Heck, 20 years ago, they did it way better than we do now. So it's time to stop procrastinating. It's time to stop our conspicuous consumption and fix what we have instead of buying more crap and putting more money into crazy rich people's pockets. So grab that thing out of your mending pile you've been meaning to fix for ages. Do it. I'm looking at you. Go get it and join me as we tackle this huge, overwhelming pile of mending. First on the docket is my green cotton linen blend Sottana. I threw this together haphazardly while on vacation last summer with the intent of wearing it to the Tournament of Defense last fall. But as many of you know, Beetlejuice and the lobster gown took way more of my time and energy than I'd originally allotted, and I almost ran out of time making this dress. So I did a very bad job patting the hem with wool blend felt, and after several washes, the felt crumpled up in a hot mess and shrunk. So I need to fix it, but I'm nixing the felt because this dress is made to be worn in the hotter months and machine washed to get all of that sweat out. Enter horsehair braid. Because this dress is quite long, I don't need to add a facing and can sew it on the wrong side as you see here. Not the most HA of materials, but it's light and stiff and will be perfect for this gown's intended purpose. I'm a firm believer of hybrid historical sewing, where the hidden seams are done in a modern way to save time, and then all of the visible finishing hand done the way they would have done in the past. This gives the feel of a historical garment and the flexibility of using a machine in a world where a creative needs to have 4 jobs in order to afford a tiny city apartment. Not that I'm bitter or anything. Okay, since this pile is super daunting and I really love crossing things off of the list, I have made a list of everything that we have in the pile, plus 1 extra if we have time. I don't want to steal anyone's shtick, but we are going to cross them off the list as we get them done. This wrinkled specimen is my 1830s inspired Weird Barbie dress. Now in the 1830s, they used these things called sleeve plumpers to puff up their sleeves and give them loft. They go on your arms like this. And yes, mine look like swimmies because it looks like a swimmy. However, that's not always fun to wrangle into, and since this dress is something I want to wear in my everyday wardrobe and not just for Comic-Cons, I decided to stuff the sleeves with tulle. However, I was on a very tight schedule to get the reveal for that video filmed in time to get the video out, and so if you would believe it, your chaotic costumer did the entire reveal with 1 sleeve completely sewn and the other sleeve resplendent with pins, which I'm sure you know was so comfortable. Not only that, but the tulle is really itchy, and I just decided that it wasn't worth it to wear it all the time if I'm going to be uncomfortable. So I got very discouraged, threw it in my mending basket last July, and haven't looked at it since. So let's fix it. (1830 sleeves are so huge, they benefit from having both the arm side and the cuff reinforced. This does take up a little bit of space, so if you intend to use this method instead of sleeve plumpers, it's best to add a little bit of room to accommodate all the extra fabric. Full puff initiated. Feels great. Now I guess I need to go and iron it. This next project is the one that I want to do the least, and it's also the one that I need to do the most. These are my vintage inspired Beetlejuice trousers. When I was making these last fall, I was totally overwhelmed doing 2 huge projects at once. Do not recommend, never do that to yourself. I was so burnt out and I was only halfway done, and I decided to just sew skirt hooks and eyes all the way down the fly. And after wearing it a couple of times, I realized it looked terrible. And so I'm gonna set in a zipper fly. I have never done this before in 20-something years of sewing. And there's a reason, because it looks really unpleasant and I hate zippers. So let's rip off the Band-Aid. I couldn't find any instructions online how to add a zipper to an existing pair of trousers, only how to add them in the original process, so I'm going to have to take some of this apart. First, the facing. We're going to place the zipper right side up along the edge of the facing, pin it, and then base it along the edge. Now place the top stitched edge of the trousers near the teeth, but not touching the teeth. Note that my fly is reversed because I'm left-handed, so if you're a righty, this will be on the other side, not to confuse you. Okay, pin your facing back for now to get it out of the way. Now place the free side of the zipper face down onto your placket about 1/2 inch away from the seam. And then seam it up using a zipper foot, of course. Now the hard part. Base the seam allowance from the wrong side. Then from the right side, top stitch across the bottom of the fly and up the side to secure. With the worst out of the way, now let's tackle the majority of the pile, which are all quick, easy fixes. First, my pink ionic chitin, which is starting to come apart at the side seams. A quick, tight backstitch is all you need to fix the tiny little holes. Why oh why did I wait so long to do this? Next, the concert tee from the beginning of the video. The stitching under the arms really did unravel after 2 washes 10 years ago. I can't believe I've put this off for a literal decade. What is wrong with me? Now, normally I'd zip this up with a serger because a serger is a knit's best friend, but not everybody has a serger at home. So here's how you can fix this very common issue with your normal sewing machine. You want to use something like this overlocking stitch, or if you have a simpler machine, a plain old zigzag for any fabric that has some stretch to it. And just to prove how simple a fix this is, let's do it in real time. Editing Jackie, start the clock. "16 seconds. Next, my Roman stola. The center front keeps coming undone. I used crappy thread. This seam needs to be felled, so there's a little more to it. First, we backstitch up the length like we did with the chitin. Then we tuck the raw edges over and press the linen before hem stitching it down to the dress. Then anchor down the existing thread so it doesn't continue to unravel. Next is this linen skirt I just bought on sale from French Meadows. The elastic came undone and left this annoying hole the second time I put it on. I don't have thread that matches well, so I ripped just a small amount at the center back to extricate the elastic. Then pop a safety pin onto the end of the elastic to thread it through the waistband tunnel. I stitched the elastic in the ditch from the right side to secure it once more. This skirt was a bit big when I was wearing it, so I sewed in a few inches to the elastic, but I don't want to cut this elastic in case I ever need to adjust again, so I'll just tuck the extra into the front of the waistband, which isn't gathered. Then a quick and easy tunnel stitch around the waistband seam to hide my mismatched thread and secure everything back down. Next, my black linen adjustable Victorian walking skirt I just made. The button loops came undone as I was getting dressed at the event I made this for, and believe it when I say I literally had to stitch myself into this because I didn't have the time or patience to fix it properly. But now we do. So first, undo that panic stitching and undo the badly sewn button loop. This time, I opted to anchor the stitch into the back of the waistband first before doing the buttonhole stitches. And yes, this is hard to see. Black on black sucks. There, that's a little bit better. Fixed. Woohoo! Last of the quick fixes is my witchy Victorian chemise. I yanked too hard when I was getting dressed and ripped the thing. This is a particularly ugly tear that ripped in two separate directions. This is only going to be a temporary fix. I expect eventually I'm going to have to do something a little more drastic, but this should hold me for a while. First, we'll whip stitch the raw edges together. Again, not very pretty, but it should hold okay and nobody's gonna see it because it's underwear. Then we'll patch over it with some scrap cotton just to make it a little stronger. I hope you're enjoying this video. I know it's a little different than what you normally see on this channel, but with times being tough, I thought it would be interesting to expand our concept of what historical costuming can be. Fabric's more and more expensive, and sometimes we just want to use what we have on hand, which is 100% historically accurate. And you can't say that about a lot of things. So please consider giving this video a thumbs up if you're enjoying it or if this has motivated you to get stuff done. Believe it or not, this is only half of my mending pile. The rest are much bigger projects, and if this video does well, then maybe we can tackle the transformation of store-bought items into vintage and historical inspired clothes. Okay, my friends, now that my voice is almost completely back to normal after 13 days of being sick, we can finally finish up this task. There's only 2, maybe 3 things left to do, although these 3 are a little bit more complicated and are gonna take a little bit more time. And yes, regular viewers, the reason that you're getting a mending video instead of petticoat breeches for the Baroque Peacock is because I've been sick for 2 weeks. Y'all know there's only so much hard sewing you can do when you have bronchitis. First on the docket, what I fondly refer to as the pizza stays. My longtime viewers will recognize these. These are 1640s bodies that I built a couple of years ago, 3 years now I think. I have to let this out. specifically because I'm gonna need these. We're gonna be building a 1680s mantua here very soon, and I need to have some kind of understructure to wear under my mantua, and these are it. So I've already taken off the lining in the center back and on the sides, comme ça, and because I've got a little bit of seam allowance here, we're just gonna let it out at the seams. Luckily, a little goes a long way with stays and bodies. I also have a problem with the busk. I broke this when I was wearing it originally a couple of years ago, getting ready for an event. Shoes before corsets, my friends. And I, unfortunately, was using a paint stick. And in the couple of years since I've built these stays, paint sticks have changed sizes. They used to be 14 inches. Now they're 12 inches. And you have to pay for them. You used to be able to get them for free. Capitalism. So unfortunately, I can't replace the paint stick. I had to buy a big heavy duty paint stick to replace, and it's just so thick that it presses into my chest and gives me separation in an era where we don't really have separation. Unfortunately, I need to sand it down, and I don't quite have the equipment to do that, so I'm gonna have to deal with it for now. But that's okay, I will survive. It's more important that we get these bodies to fit me better. As I do this, I invite you to think about how we can normalize this process. It's not only important for us as makers to mend our things and not let them sit for decades, but also to impart our skills to others who may not have had the same opportunities as us. Speaking as an elder millennial, my generation in particular starts the trend of becoming less and less self-sufficient. I meet so many people who say to me, oh, I wish I could fix my own clothes or use a sewing machine that they have inherited. So let's have a discussion in the comments. I want to hear of ways you think we can pass this on to others, to our grandchildren, our children, even our peers, regardless of their gender. Since self-sufficiency should not be put only on the shoulders of feminine presenting people. And literally, there's no downside to buying less crap and fixing what we have. I didn't have the hand sewing skills before, but now I'm going to hand sew these seams together in a more historically adequate way, which is kind of exciting. This is called the English stitch, or the skip one, catch three. I call it the sandwich stitch, and I also have a dedicated video on doing this stitch, as well as why I think the sandwich is a better way to think about it, since historically this stitch didn't have a name. Also, for you knitters out there, yes, I did knit this throw. It's called the Hue Shift Afghan from Knit Picks, and not only do they sell the pattern, you can get a kit for it in various colorways. It was a lot of fun to knit. Looks good from the front, but it's too big in the center back. So we're gonna have to take it back in a little bit. Oh well. Okay, my thread bunnies, this is the last have to do on the docket. This dress, and it's a doozy. I made this years and years and years ago out of a craft store t-shirt and some remnant poly chiffon, and did a horrible job. I was being especially lazy, and I just serged everything together and did a terrible job at it. As you can see, there are pieces of frayed fabric coming out everywhere. I also wanted it to be stretchy, so I inserted this waistband with elastic, and it is very unflattering on my figure. And finally, I used this knit poly as a lining, and it is so staticky and uncomfortable. We've got a lot of work to do with this. The first thing we've got to do is take it apart. This is a bad idea. The bodice is a bit too long, so first we need to shorten it a little for my hoppity frame. I'm swapping the knit lining for some basic black quilting cotton. Rip Joann's. The back portion of the dress will get gathered as before, but without the elastic. The front, however, will just be pleated in a few spots to be a little more flattering on my figure. Again, I'm using a zigzag stitch on this knit fabric so the stitching doesn't pop when it stretches. There, looks way better, though unfortunately without the elastic pulling it taut, it needs a belt to clip it into my waist. But that's okay. Hi, it's now Sunday. I just finished filming all of the intro bits, and since this video has to be completed by Tuesday to make any final fixes on Wednesday and get it uploaded by Thursday, I'm gonna make the executive decision to nix the Liberty skirt for this video. This one is a little bit more aligned with all of the rest of my mending like I was talking about before. It needs to be completely redone, completely restructured, and I just don't think I have the time to get it done in time to get this video out to you. So we'll see what happens if I end up doing that on my own or if I end up making a video. The truth is, between the illness and events that I've been going to, I now only have 3 weeks to get this 1680s mantua done before the event that it's supposed to be for, so we gotta buckle down and get that done, because y'all know how hard the 17th century is. It feels so good to have all of that done, and not only because my mending pile is no longer looming over me like the trash heap from Fraggle Rock. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. Thank you so much to my supporters over on Ko-fi for continuing to help keep this channel running. I could not do it without you. If you like this video and want to see more practical mending, you can check out this one here on the screen, where I alter a pair of stays that no longer fit me, or never fit me to begin with, if I'm honest. Thank you for watching. I love y'all, and I'll catch you in my next video.